Most people believe drifting was invented in Japan by Keiichi Tsuchiya, the legendary driver known as the Drift King. And it is easy to see why. The most famous early drifting footage shows Tsuchiya throwing a Toyota AE86 sideways through Japan's mountain roads, controlling the car just inches from guardrails. His videos inspired an entire generation and helped turn drifting into a worldwide phenomenon. But Tsuchiya did not invent the controlled slide. Drivers had been intentionally sliding cars through corners decades before he became famous. Grand Prix racers, rally drivers, and dirt track racers all used oversteer as a way to rotate the car and maintain speed. So why is Japan considered the birthplace of drifting? Because Japan did not invent sliding. It transformed sliding from a racing technique into a style, a culture, and eventually its own motorsport. And that transformation began before the Drift King ever stepped into an AE86. Long before drifting appeared in Japan, racing drivers were already using controlled slides to get through corners. One of the earliest famous examples was Italian Grand Prix driver Tazio Nuvolari. During the 1930s, Nuvolari became known for using a technique called the four-wheel drift. Instead of keeping every tire perfectly planted, he would enter a corner aggressively and balance the car while all four tires slid across the road. Motorsport historians credit Nuvolari with popularizing and possibly developing this technique. Sliding was especially common because early race cars had narrow tires, stiff suspension, and far less grip than modern cars. On dirt, gravel, and early racing circuits, losing traction was often unavoidable. The fastest drivers learned to control the slide instead of fighting it. Rally drivers later used similar techniques to rotate their cars on loose surfaces, such as gravel, snow, and mud. But this was not drifting as we know it today. These drivers were not being judged on angle, style, or tire smoke. Sliding was simply a tool used to maintain speed and point the car toward the corner exit. The controlled slide already existed. What Japan would eventually create was a culture built around it. The bridge between older racing slides and Japanese drifting was a driver named Kunimitsu Takahashi. Takahashi began as a factory motorcycle racer for Honda. In 1961, he became the first Japanese rider to win a motorcycle Grand Prix World Championship race. After a serious crash at the 1962 Isle of Man TT, he eventually transitioned from motorcycles to cars. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, Takahashi became one of Japan's leading racing drivers. He competed in cars such as the Nissan Skyline GTR and became known for carrying controlled oversteer through corners. Unlike modern drifting, Takahashi was not sliding for style points. He was competing in normal races, where lap time and finishing position mattered. His slides were used to rotate the car, maintain momentum, and control its balance at the limit. But his driving was dramatic enough to stand out. Instead of immediately correcting the car when the rear stepped out, Takahashi appeared comfortable balancing it with counter-steering and throttle. That style helped introduce Japanese racing fans to the sight of a car being driven quickly while sideways. One of the young drivers inspired by him was Keiichi Tsuchiya. Takahashi did not invent controlled oversteer, and calling him the sole inventor of drifting would be misleading. His importance is that he connected traditional racing technique with the Japanese drivers who would later make the slide itself the main event. Takahashi showed that sliding could still be fast. Tsuchiya would show that sliding could become a culture. The driver who turned controlled sliding into a recognizable culture was Keiichi Tsuchiya. Tsuchiya grew up in Nagano Prefecture and developed much of his early car control on Japan's winding mountain passes, known as Touge roads. Inspired by racers such as Kunimitsu Takahashi, he practiced deliberately braking rear traction and controlling the car with throttle, weight transfer, and counter-steering. He entered the Fuji Freshman Race Series in 1977 and quickly built a reputation as both a skilled racer and an unusually dramatic driver. Toyota records that Tsuchiya attracted major attention after performing fast, controlled drifts during a freshman race at Fuji Speedway in 1984. The car most closely associated with him was the Toyota AE86 Corolla 11 and Sprinter Trueno. Produced from 1983 to 1987, the AE86 combined a lightweight body, rear-wheel drive, and a high-revving 1.6-liter engine. It was not extremely powerful, which meant drivers had to rely on momentum, braking, and weight transfer to initiate a slide. Toyota describes the AE86 as a car whose balance and control made it especially suited to drifting. Tsuchiya's biggest impact came through automotive media. In 1987, he appeared in the famous video commonly called Plus B, or the Touge, which showed him sliding an AE86 through Japanese mountain roads. At a time before online video, VHS tapes allowed enthusiasts to repeatedly watch and study his technique. Tsuchiya did not invent oversteer. What he did was make controlled sliding something drivers practiced for its own sake. Speed still mattered, but so did angle, smoothness, precision, and style. Kunimitsu Takahashi had shown that sliding could be fast. Keiichi Tsuchiya showed that sliding could become the main attraction. By the 1990s, drifting had grown beyond small groups of drivers practicing on mountain roads. Japanese automotive magazines and videos began organizing events where drivers were judged on the quality of their slides rather than their lap times. Keiichi Tsuchiya became an important judge and public face of these early competitions. Drivers were evaluated on factors such as speed, angle, line, and control. Competitors also began running in pairs, with one car leading and another following closely while matching its movements. This format became known as tandem drifting. The major turning point came in 2001 when the first official D1 Grand Prix season was held in Japan. Nobushige Kumakubo, Manabu Orido, and other well-known drivers competed, while Nobuteru Taniguchi became the series' first champion. D1's official records confirm that its inaugural championship took place in 2001. D1 gave drifting professional tracks, organized judging, and national television exposure. Unlike conventional racing, winning was not simply about crossing the finish line first. Drivers had to maintain speed and angle while following the correct line and staying close to their opponent. The series quickly became the model for professional drifting around the world. The FIA describes drift culture as being born in Japan and identifies D1 Grand Prix as an organized championship operating since 2001. What began as a racing technique had become a completely separate motorsport. Drifting does not have one clear inventor. Controlled sliding existed decades before Japan, used by Grand Prix racers, rally drivers, and dirt track competitors as a way to control cars at the limit. Kunimitsu Takahashi helped bring that style into Japanese motorsport and inspired a new generation of drivers. Keiichi Tsuchiya then took the technique to Japan's mountain roads, made it more deliberate, and helped turn it into a culture built around angle, control, and style. Finally, competitions like D1 Grand Prix gave drifting official rules, professional drivers, and a worldwide audience. So, did Japan invent sliding? No. But Japan transformed sliding into drifting, and that is why the country is still considered the true birthplace of the sport.